So, hey, welcome again to Dostcast.
Thank you.
You are now the official Superman for Gurgaon municipality. I don't know why they haven't named you to MCG yet. I don't if that's what they call it, but you've been getting quite a lot of virality for your angry and fact-loaded rants against the state of sanitation in Gurgaon. I'm going to only talk about it for 10 minutes and we'll move on to other subjects. When did this ire with the Gurgaon's horrible urban conditions begin?
So I moved to Gurgaon in 2015 with my parents, who sadly are no more. And at that point in time, I moved into a place called Magnolias, which is a DLF property. And I bought this apartment, and the complex itself, Vinamre, is superb. It's self-equipped. It is beyond imagination in terms of service, facilities. You've been there. The problem is that the surroundings of Gurgaon kept sliding and have slid rapidly. They have slid because of three things. Number one, Gurgaon has been neglected in the larger purpose of Haryana by various governments. And from the time I've been there till now, it's been a BJP government. So, when the BJP says double engine, triple engine, no engine, this is a zero engine government and has been this way for the longest time. The second is that the expansion of Gurgaon has been totally mindless in an environment where one would have imagined the use of technology, the use of modern day thinking, architecture, urban planning. None of that has been followed. The third is that it seemed, and it continues to seem, that the politician really doesn't care. See, the thing is, the problem in India is the politicians care for votes. They don't care for the people who vote for them. And therein lies the irony. When you have a smaller vote base like Gurgaon, in the larger scheme of things, it perhaps doesn't matter to the powers that be. But they fail to recognize that Gurgaon is your only golden goose. A, the taxes from Gurgaon to Haryana are more than all the cities in Haryana combined. B, it houses some of India's largest corporates. C, the people who run those companies live there. Tell me, what kind of signal are you sending to the world where, on the one hand, the Prime Minister, who I have a lot of affection and regard for, talks about Swachh Bharat, talks about Brand India, and his people from his party keep letting him down with such panache that it is now becoming exhausting. And it's not a rant or anger. It is more out of frustration. A problem that afflicts India and Indians is we're too scared to talk truth to power. We're always worried about repercussions. A, B, we're also worried about being popular. Winston Churchill famously said the only person you've got to be popular with is your spouse. But we're so worried about the authorities कि पता नहीं कुछ हो जाएगा. C, these people then believe that they are a power unto themselves. They are essentially public servants. And servants is a bad word, but you know what I mean. They are there for the people. They are there of the people, they are there by the people. But they, when they come to office, assume such a level of arrogance and what I would call insulation that they really don't care. So when the Indian Express event happened, I was not even speaking there. It was VK Saxena, the LG, and Amitabh Kant. And then I was asked, do you have a question? I said, no. Given what we are discussing, Brand India, urban renewal, I have a comment. And I made that comment. Nothing in that comment was political. And by the way, the short or the clip that went viral had one portion edited where I mentioned the BJP to VK Saxena. I said 3 terms of a BJP government. So you can't even keep blaming the Congress or Jawaharlal Nehru or, people like that. And I said, look, it is an absolute shame, not only a shame for Haryana, it's a shame for India. You tell me, Vinamre, suppose you're working in Hero Motor Corp or Coca-Cola, and you tell your principals in Atlanta that, I'm sorry, I can't go to work today because Gurgaon is flooded. What crosses their mind? What do you think they think about? They think about the fact that India is still living in prehistoric times. And by the way, in our prehistoric times, our drainage was far better than it is today. So that's how it began. It was not a rant. It was telling the truth. It was telling these people in power that, look, you're making a fatal mistake if you don't indulge in immediate course correction. What happened subsequently was that it opened, rightfully so, a citizen's Pandora's box. You then had more and more people emboldened to talk about it on social media. Then people started sharing clips. People started sharing videos. RWAs got united. So I have played no role except the role of a very, very minor spark in lighting this flame of responsibility within the powers that be and within us ourselves. I will say this today, it might cause a lot of consternation, but the citizens are equally to blame. The developers, the real estate companies, some of them are equally to blame. We keep our houses clean. Bahar kooda phekna aap phek do, as long as it doesn't impinge or affect your house. So citizen apathy is also what I spoke about and what I've continued to speak about. And that is where we are. And once this clip went, insanely viral, I started getting calls from the government saying that, we are doing this. I said, look, you're not accountable to me. You're accountable to every person who lives in Haryana and every person who lives in Gurgaon. If you think I'm going to change my narrative because you've made a call to me, I'm not. I want to see work that's happening. This was on the 18th of July. We are today on August the 4th, and only 10% has happened. The balance 90%, which, by the way, they're capable of doing, they haven't done. So every day there's drama. Every day there are people now attacking them. And people are showing them visuals. There are people who are retired army officers, retired corporate chiefs, who are all coming in, which, by the way, is a great thing. People have to be united in terms of taking on the powers that be when the powers that be let us down, both as a nation and as a community.
You've been historically courageous in voicing your encouragement of certain people and admiring them publicly and also criticizing them. I don't think nowadays, especially if I think about younger people, they have the same sort of gall to take on the establishment because it's seen as dissent that could be curbed or punished or could have dire consequences. So when you stood there, you knew that Amitabh Kant, for example, was a part of the government at some point. To openly criticize them to your face, did you not feel any fear?
No, because I'll tell you one thing. I have known the Prime Minister since 1999. And now again people say, oh, Bhakt, ye wo. Narendra Modi, the Modi that I know and the Modi that actually exists, is not the Modi who's shy of criticism. He's not shy of being critiqued. I have taken the BJP on multiple issues over the years. By the way, I was the first person to praise Rahul Gandhi when Bharat Jodo Yatra happened. And I still believe what he did during the Bharat Jodo Yatra was impressive as a politician. But that doesn't mean I didn't criticize him when he made that remark about India's economy being dead. The point is, we must be mentally and intellectually neutral, and we must respect the fact that our leaders will understand that there is no angst, there is no agenda, there is no manipulation in the mind. And I think a lot of people accept that. So, when I said that, I knew I was saying that to a person who had just left government, in this case Amitabh Kant, and a person who's the LG of Delhi. And the reason why I said it is, and to be fair to both of them, they also understood and understand where I come from. I'm not searching for public office. I don't want a boiler inspector to approve my boiler. I don't have a factory. I don't have a plant. I don't have anything other than your friendship. So what do I have to lose? I have nothing to lose. But the country has a lot to lose. Brand India has a lot to lose. Brand Haryana has a lot to lose. I've never met Naib Singh Saini, but a lot of people have told me he's a good man. Very good. So was Mother Teresa, but Mother Teresa never ran a state. If you are running a state, there has to be a level of accountability. The problem is these people have responsibility without accountability. And the people who are supposed to make them accountable keep quiet.
Hypothetically, if you were a CM, for a day, like they show Anil Kapoor in the movie Nayak, what would be 5 things that you would do differently?
I would only do one. The problem is we try to do too many. The only thing I would do is make sure every citizen, when he leaves his or her home and comes back to his or her home, goes and returns in a manner that is livable, that is hygienic, that is uninterrupted, and that is non-miserable. That's what people want. You know the beautiful thing about our country? And people say, oh, Indians are this in here. We're a lovely nation. We don't have too many demands as a people. We have a high SQ. People say IQ, EQ. We have the highest suffering quotient. We can suffer as much. We can suffer fools, some of them in parliament. We can suffer fools, some of them, leaders. We can suffer fools in our personal lives. We have a high suffering quotient. But have you ever seen an Indian demand? Mere ko ye do, mere ko ye do, mere ko ye do. But, Pawan Verma wrote about it in his book, The Great Indian Middle Class. We have become apathetic. We have become lazy. We have become a bit fearful. And we are unwilling to be unpopular. But it's important to be unpopular. Because populism by nature means you have to say what people would love to hear. But that is not the truth. The truth is what you and I see. I see the floods. So it's not as if I'm inventing a Venice in Gurugram. I see their sanitation decline. I see the garbage. I see the construction debris. And everyone is responsible. But no one goes to jail. No one gets arrested. No one is taken to task. Because there's always a nexus. I think it was on one of your earlier podcasts that I said that sometimes the Republic of India is actually the Republic of nexuses. There's a very unholy nexus where if you keep quiet, I'll keep quiet, and then we'll let things be. So status quo is our biggest enemy in India. And unless you and I and a billion other Indians stand up and fight, the status quo will destroy us. It'll destroy our Indianness. It'll destroy our sabhyata, our tehzeeb, our sanskriti, and it will destroy us as a nation. And we are a superb nation. We have everything going for us. We have some of the brightest people in our country. We have young, bright, entrepreneurial minds today. I mean, you look around. Even someone the other day told me, oh, why were you upset about Rahul Gandhi's remarks? I have nothing against him. And, people have called him anti-Indian or this and that. I said sometimes his utterances may be anti-Indian. But I have always said that Rahul Gandhi is as Indian as I am or as you are. But the point is, your utterances at times define you. And why can't we have more responsible behavior, more responsible discourse in our country? And for that to happen, you have to be neutral, you have to be effective, and you have to communicate.
Do you think our citizens, to overcome this apathy and this, कहीं पे भी कूड़ा फेंक देना, कुछ भी कर देना, गाड़ी wrong side पे चलाना, this requires more strict authoritarian rules where there's heavy penalties so that they finally behave? Like it took us a long time to get rid of polio, and a lot of vaccination drives happened. And in the 80s and 90s probably, nasbandi bhi ek cheez hui thi. It's taken a long time to sort of whip the populace into shape, let's just say. You think something like that is required?
I want to take you back to something which I've rarely spoken about. Maybe 25, 26 years ago. Mr. Ratan Tata and I were in Singapore, and he said, what are you doing tomorrow morning? And, be properly attired and be ready at such and such time. And he took me to meet Lee Kuan Yew, the legendary Lee Kuan Yew.
I was going to mention him.
I'm getting goosebumps as I recount that. Lee Kuan Yew was the founder and the creator of Singapore. And I have to tell you, Vinamre, those 2 hours, 20 minutes were the most formative moments of my time in life. Because here was a person who spoke with clarity and conviction. Sometimes we have the conviction, we don't have the clarity. Sometimes we have the clarity, but no conviction. And because I asked, I said, sir, you created a nation state out of a marshland after you were ejected from Malaysia. And you built Singapore as not just a nation state, but as a role model. What all happened? And he mentioned only two things. He says, one is we set rules. And number two, we allowed no one to break them. The punishment for breaking those rules was far heavier in terms of it was non-commensurate with the rules that you were breaking. Tell me, over the years, you and I have both seen drunken driving has gone down. Why? Because people are getting caught. People are being sniffed. People are being put through breathalyzer tests. Why can't we do the same thing with municipal waste? Why can't we do the same thing with civic sanitation? The problem is we are not employing technology. It's a simple thing. There's a Pahadi Rasta which connects MG Road to Gurgaon. That is littered with construction debris. Imagine if you had CCTV cameras on that road. You would know exactly who is dumping what. If China can do facial recognition of 1.6 billion people, why can't we install CCTV cameras to protect our environment? Tomorrow, we may have everything. We will be the third largest, God willing, we'll be the second largest economy. It'll be at 6 trillion. Why 4 trillion? But what will we be without our environment? What will we be without our trees, without nature, without our ponds, without our rivers? And no one is thinking about that because, as I said, citizens are equally selfish. And citizens are purposeful as long as their needs are fulfilled. So they would much rather abuse today rather than live for tomorrow. And it is going to show. We are seeing it all over. And we have not imbibed the principles of people who today live amongst us. You know of my association with the Tatas. Look at Jamshedpur. To this day, is an oasis of excellence.
I remember watching it first in the movie Udaan, and I told my dad that I want to go and check this place out. It's got these government buildings and small quarters, but it looks beautiful in the rainy sets of Udaan.
You should go to Jamshedpur to see what India and Indians can do if they put their heart and soul to it. You should go to Jamnagar to see what India and Indians can do if they put their hearts and souls to it. So for a Jamshedpur, you had Jamshedji Nasarwanji Tata. For a Jamnagar, you have Mukesh Ambani. Mukesh Ambani lives amidst us. How difficult is it today for the government of Haryana to ask an N. Chandrasekharan, who's the chairman of Tata Sons, or a Mukesh Ambani, say, please give us your best people to guide us as to how we can get out of this morass of civil and civic decline. But they won't ask. It is their ego. It is money, perhaps, that is made from all these areas. And we have such examples all over. But we don't do that. And my problem is that you can have a Jamshedpur, you can have a Jamnagar, but we need 1 billion Jamshedpurs, if that's possible. At least we need that mindset. We need urban renewal. We need people to be responsible about the way they live, the way they behave, the way they drive. I have not driven in India for the last maybe 10 years. I don't want to be afflicted by road rage. I don't want to get upset if someone is, driving the wrong way. So the best thing is you opt out. But I have the option. There are millions who don't have that option. What do they do? What do we do? People laugh, people put politics before purpose. I was on a train about a year and a half ago. See how the railways have evolved. And I can tell you, now people will say, oh, but Mamata Banerjee is this. Mamata Banerjee, when she was railway minister, Amit Mitra was at that time the Secretary General of FICCI. And she put me on a committee to advise the railways as to how to monetize platforms and actually therefore improve the quality of platform. So let's say platform A is sponsored by, by Reliance, or platform B is sponsored by Amul. And we did that exercise. Mamata Banerjee had thought of it at that point in time. Today, it's perhaps the same thought process or whatever, but we've done a great job with our railways. We've done a very good job with our airlines. Why can't we do the same with our civic infrastructure? And, you and I can talk about Gurugram because we have the access, we have the amplification. What happens to cities like Amritsar? We say Babaji Di Nagari, the Golden Temple is there. It's where my parents were born. Look at the decline in Amritsar. Look at what Kubizzia's Chandigarh has become. And there is no one willing to bell the cat. No one is serious about this. So I'm unable to understand what the hell are our mayors doing? What are these jokers doing? If they are unable to manage basic things, how will they manage the ambitions, the aspirations of 1 billion people?
I was recently in Udaipur, and I was visiting a few people and making a series like I was telling you. And I assumed when I would reach the lake, I would see small pockets of trash. I was very surprised.
Nothing.
It was a stunningly beautiful, extremely clean city. And then I met a gentleman who will very soon, contest the elections for one of the constituencies in Udaipur. And I asked him, what would you like to do? He said that I can preach the need for change, but I will not go and change too many things at all because, I will upset people. And this is a gentleman who has gone to one of India's best schools, a Doon equivalent, comes from high pedigree, is extremely knowledgeable. But the way he does his politics, the way he was thinking about his politics, was entirely about let's maintain the status quo.
Exactly. That's what I told you. Now, you talk about Lake Pichola. Okay, Udaipur. The maintenance of that is done by who?
The Mewar royal family.
And the Lake Palace, Taj.
Okay.
Now, I'm saying all you need to do, see what Sajan Jindal has done in Vijayanagar with Hampi. Look at what the Aga Khan Foundation with Nasir Munji, under Nasir Munji's leadership, has done with Sundar Nursery and Humayun's Tomb. We have the people. We have people who are committed. We have people who are willing to walk that extra mile to do things, to spend their own money in bringing about change. But for that, we need a government that is willing to recognize the fact that they need help and is willing to allow them to help. Half the time, the bureaucracy will put up hurdles where they need to put up, welcoming arms or welcoming banners. But that's the problem, and that's what we need to change.
Do you think we would benefit from having an aesthetics committee in planning all cities?
You've taken the words out of my mouth. I've been saying for years that we have the worst sense of aesthetics in our country today. Look at your palaces. Look at Umaid Bhavan in Jodhpur. And to this day, what Babji or Gat Singh, who's the king, what he has done with Umaid Bhavan. The maintenance, the way it's been maintained, the architecture. Look at, you were talking about Boawlis. Look at some of our little, Havelis across the country. Go further, go to the east and look at plantation bungalows. Managers' bungalows. Look at what we've done to our hill stations. We've ruined them. Has India produced a single hill station post the British? No. We did one, Lavasa, which was mired in political controversy because the Congress had an issue with Ajit Gulabchand. But Ajit Gulabchand was the only person who post-independence created a hill station called Lavasa. Lavasa, where, if you remember, Arun Shourie migrated. So it's not as if we haven't had the opportunity or we haven't had the inclination or we haven't had the resources. We have. But उत्साह नहीं मिला. किसी को आपने प्रमोट नहीं किया, किसी को आपने ये नहीं कहा कि भैया आप भी कर लो. सरकारें सब कुछ नहीं कर सकती. And they shouldn't be. When the Prime Minister came to power, Narendra Modi said, maximum governance, minimum business, or minimum government. That's what we need. Governments need to get out of it. You have an urban arts commission. You have some excellent architects, in the old Charles Correa, Patel mode. Use them. But we don't. Because we will use some goddamn government authorized architect or civil engineer. And I said earlier also, our civil engineers, at least in the government sector, are the worst. Look at the state of our bridges. Forget waterfalls, our bridges become waterfalls. So, what the hell are we doing? And why is no one taking these matters up? And the courts are not interfering because the judges live well. Bhai, aap mere ko ye baat bolo, the day the Chief Justice of India's house gets flooded, and one of his, God forbid, I hope it never happens, let's say one of his staff or anyone gets electrocuted and dies, the whole country will be brought to its knees. But till that happens, and as I said, God forbid it should, till that happens, the judges also don't care. So there's no suo moto acceptance of a writ.
Do you think we would be benefited from having a consciousness about our own rights as citizens? Because rights are only known to those who have read about the Constitution in school. Many kids don't go to school. And if you're urban poor or if you live under a bridge, you will never have the same conception that an American homeless person would have, that this is my right, I deserve this much dole money or this much welfare, that kind of thing.
So I have a very different and contrarian view to that. I believe rather than knowing your rights, know how and what you should be doing as an ethical human being. John F. Kennedy in his inaugural address famously said, ask not what your country can do for you, but ask what you can do for your country. The what we can do for our country has been forgotten. हम लोग ने ये ठान ली है कि भाई बस हमको देश से चूसना ही है. We will suck out everything that we can from this country. It'll never work. We have to give back. Why do we evade taxes? And let me tell you, personal income tax in India is amongst the lowest in the world. We will still have tax evasion. You will still have people defaulting with banks. You will still have people doing jiggery-pogery. Why? Someone internationally, overseas asked me one day, you travel abroad, would you ever live in any other country? I said, never in my life.
Really?
But isn't it? I would never live anywhere. Never. I'm 62. I've never even thought of living anywhere. Why? Not because I love my country, because I know this country is great. It is intrinsically great. My, legacy is here. Not my legacy, but the legacy of our collective ancestors. Our literature is rich. Our arts are rich. Our people, essentially, the Indian is a good human being. I'm not saying other countries aren't, but I'm only talking about my country. So, ye hai na ki, oh, yaar, Indians are very this and no. The poor in our country give back more in charity terms than the rich. But today, that culture of giving back has now returned. Manu, in Manu Smriti, talks about Daan way before Warren Buffett and Bill Gates even thought about, charity and the giving pledge. We need to revisit our literature. We need to revisit not our religion, but our teachings. We've had some of the finest minds, Vinamre, who've crossed our land. Whether you talk about philosophers, whether you talk about poets, as recently you talk about Jiddu Krishnamurti. We've had some fine men and women. You talk about Sri Aurobindo, you talk about the mother. But we somehow have forgotten all that. In this goddamn rush for, film industry and sports, and the people who are actually doing real work are slowly being edged out of mainstream thought.
I agree. I think even in my own content industry, if I were to think about it, the more distracting and the more vulgar it is, the better it does as a content piece.
Yeah, absolutely. But that's because we have replaced sense with sensationalism. Any society that replaces sense with sensationalism will have a finite lifetime. The beauty about India is we are not a nation alone, we are not a country alone, we are not a republic alone. We are also an enduring idea. जब आप भारत की बात करते हो या इंडिया की बात करते हो, आप भारतीयता की बात करते हो, आप इंडियननेस की बात करते हो. You look at our food. Food defines societies. Our food changes every 20 kilometers. आप कहते हो ना, नहीं, regional cuisine. There's no such thing as regional cuisine. We have district cuisine. जो वाराणसी में आपको पूड़ी आलू मिलेंगे, वो पूड़ी आलू आपको अमृतसर में नहीं मिलेंगे. जो आपको दिल्ली में पूड़ी आलू मिलेंगे, वो गुड़गांव में आपको नहीं मिलेंगे. Now, point I'm making is that we need to celebrate this diversity. We need to celebrate the fact that we have a vibrant Muslim population, a vibrant Christian population, a vibrant Parsi population. Parsis are the smallest minority, with amongst the biggest contribution to
100%.
India.
Many of my Parsi friends in Mumbai they do things I'm surprised by every single day.
There you are. And this constant railing against one religion, one identity, not needed.
Suhel, I have a question about patriotism. When I was growing up, my father had this cassette full of patriotic songs and he would play it and he would say कि आप भी गाना गाओ, इंसाफ की डगर पे बच्चों दिखाओ चल के. एक गाना और था, जब जीरो दिया मेरे भारत ने. बहुत सारे ऐसे गाने थे. देश प्रेम, एक उत्साह जो होती है ना, it was all inside me and I would feel like, wow, India, my land. As I grew older, perhaps those who are like myself from the same class that I come from, this apathy towards caring about the country or this country's patriotism is now in the hands of my political masters, so I shouldn't care so much. Who cares? This apathy began to emerge inside me. And it's also common among many of my friends and contemporaries where you think about patriotism and the first thing that comes to you is skepticism, maybe, and not that fervent enthusiasm that you saw when you watched Ajay Devgan play Bhagat Singh on the screen and आपके रोंगटे खड़े हो जाते थे, wow. I think that's on the decline now.
Yes or no? And let me tell you again, not giving undue credit. When Narendra Modi said Har Ghar Tiranga, what was that about? That was to bring back national fervor. And as I told you, I'm totally apolitical. I will never say that the Congress did nothing and only the BJP did, or BJP did nothing and only the Congress did. Societies and nations evolve. We are amongst the most recent nations as a nation concept.
Right.
As a civilizational, we are the oldest, second oldest. What has happened today is, and this is where I tend to slightly differ with you, I find India back on the table in terms of thought. But we have to channelize that. See, there's often that quote, patriotism is the last refuge of the scoundrel. But patriotism is also a great torchbearer for you to contribute to your country. And today, more and more people are contributing. Less and less people are going away. People say, oh, high net worth individuals. Half those jokers have fled because of tax reasons and because of all the evasion that they may have done. So I don't even want to go there. But the point is, today, more and more people are proud of being Indians. Now, at times, it could be false, it could be jingoistic, whatever it is. You're putting India back in my mind. I always use the example of a car battery. And when I was in advertising, we used to talk about Exide. And we used to say that while the battery runs your car, because it's under the bonnet, no one cares about the battery. But today, because we are India, Indians, passport hai, sab hai, we take it for granted. The Americans have always put nationalism in a symbolic way. Whether it's your undergarments made of stars and stripes, or whether it's the flag, or whether it's Rara,
Or
July
it's that
the
song,
4th.
Fortunate Son by Creedence Clearwater Revival.
What a revival.
Where it's like the army guys will smoke a cigar, crack a beer and shoot guns and then say, America.
America. And by the way, none of them is an American because there is no concept as an American.
Right.
They're all migrants. They're all people from other nationalities or from other countries other than Native Americans. Mm-hmm. But that's the point. So I feel that what Modi has done is remarkable. Now, we need to have a fine line. And that fine line needs to be understood intellectually. There's a very thin line between being proud of your country and by being arrogant about your country. There's a very thin line by in being proud of your country and in being denial and being in denial about your country's issues. Sometimes we are in denial of our country's real problems. But that again, Vinamre, is your and my responsibility. It is not the responsibility of just a Narendra Modi or a Rahul Gandhi. Political leaders, of course, exercise responsibility, but they cannot be us. And we have to respect that. That if a Narendra Modi wants us to do something, he can't come and do it for us. But the fact is that he's thinking about it. You know, when Swachh Bharat happened, I remember there was a television debate. And the usual cynics were saying, oh, you know, should the Prime Minister actually be worried about toilets? Should the Prime Minister? It is the most important thing. You tell me, what does it do to your self-esteem, to your self-respect, when you're forced into fields for open defecation? Do you know, there was a study that was done, and it's a very interesting thing. Not many people have talked about it because not many people know. I was tasked with a study to understand why there were a large number of girl dropouts around the ages of 11 and 12 in what I would call tier 2, tier 3 cities. And when we finished the research, we figured that there were no segregated toilets. And when they were attaining adolescence and puberty and, you know, all of that, there were issues about toilets. And people were dropping out. Now, you and I might never discuss sanitary napkins, or we might not discuss that. These are serious issues. Just like menopause is a serious issue for women above 40. But you and I don't talk about it. Because पुराने ज़माने में ये चीज़ें इनकी बातें नहीं होती थी. But then you had an Akshay Kumar who did a film around, you know, sanitary pads or whatever it was. We need to understand that as a society, we are only as strong as our weakest link. And our weakest link is not about poverty. I've always said that every country has poverty. What we unfortunately have is the impoverishment of opportunities. So here, let me explain. Vinamre and I are born in the same year, in the same city, but you go to a great school because, you know, you come from a wealthy family, and I come from a less privileged family, and I'm put in a government school. In a government school, I find that the teachers don't attend school. When I fall ill, I go to a government clinic or government hospital, and there are no doctors. That's where inequality really begins. If I had the same teaching facility, I'm not saying the same faculty as you, I would learn. You have kept me, you have dabawed me, you have kept me unequal because you have not provided me equal opportunities. And the fundamentals of democracy are equal opportunities. You know, people talk rubbish, whether it's in parliament or outside, democracy, democracy is a very simple concept. You and I must be treated equally, and we must have equal opportunities. It's simple. ये for by the people Lincolnian concept and all ठीक है. But ultimately a Vinamre or a Suhel or a Kaushik or whoever must get the same opportunities. After that, दो चीजें होंगी, या तो आपका aptitude या आपकी किस्मत. You know, you can be at the right place at the right time and God can give you everything, or you can't. By the way, how many brilliant examples do we have of self-made people in India today? Millions. And that again, to give credit to Modi, what has the Padma Awards done? I can tell you, Vinamre, I would get calls every July, August, before the Modi government, before Modi became Prime Minister.
To give you the Padma Awards?
Not to me. I'm not deserving of it. But, yaar, do you know, jury mein kaun hai, yaar? Achha, iska kara do, uska kara do. Today, people who you and I don't know are getting the Padma, which is why the Padma is important. Because those are the examples that India needs. Earlier, all these business newspapers or business magazines, you would be doing a merry-go-round, you know, pass the parcel. every guy would get an award. Like you have film awards. If you
Right.
show up that day, you get an award. But Padma actually, today's Padma Awards are being given to people who've made a material change, even if it is to 20 people in their community. But what is important is not just the 20 people, but the inspiration that they become, the example they set, and the leadership tonality they offer. That, to my mind, is the important bit.
Let me take you to a different direction from here. Because you work in the world of image and branding, if you were to rebrand a few individuals, I will start with Rahul Gandhi because we've mentioned him. How would you rebrand him?
On a serious note, I would rebrand Rahul Gandhi as a person who understands India, but who offers solutions. See, you cannot always agree or disagree with everyone. So if Rahul Gandhi says India's economy is bad or dead or whatever, substantiate it. The problem is he's using an AK-47 style of communication. कि मैंने बोल दिया और चलो भाई. आप substantiate करो. You make allegations against the late Manohar Parrikar. You make allegations against the late Arun Jaitley. And rightly so, BJP makes allegations against the late Jawaharlal Nehru or the late Sardar Patel. Substantiate it. This shoot and scoot policy does not behove Rahul Gandhi. And I'll tell you why. To my mind, the very limited times I've met her, Sonia Gandhi, no matter what you say, is the epitome of grace, of thoughtfulness, of mindfulness. And you know, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. I'm sure Rahul has those traits. But you need to build that sense of responsibility. You cannot come across as an angry, young, petulant man. Because what happens is, the BJP will obviously play on that. देखिए जी, इसने इंडिया को बर्बाद कर दिया, इसने इंडिया के बारे में ये कहा है, वो तो कहेंगी. You know, it is not the job of Narendra Modi and Amit Shah to go to Khan Market looking for an opposition. If they don't get an opposition, damn good. So the point I'm making is, Rahul Gandhi, by this subtle change, by this small inflection in his outreach, can bring about a great change. And trust me, he's 55. He's got a life ahead of himself here. So he can bring about material change. He has all the things going for him. You know, people say Nehru was this, Nehru was that. I'm sorry, I don't agree. I think Pandit Nehru made a seminal contribution to India. You may disagree with him, you may agree with him, but his contribution cannot be taken lightly. Did Sardar Patel make a seminal contribution? Of course he did. You cannot make two dead leaders fight here. Oh, it's now Nehru versus Patel. So I don't subscribe to that theory.
What about Rajnath Singh?
I don't think Rajnath Singh needs rebranding. That's a brand that's doing well.
Don't you think that he's quiet as a defense minister? He's more operational as opposed to...
Sometimes I'll tell you, in politics, silence is a greater virtue than you and I can imagine, especially when you're the defense minister. You know, people say, oh, Nirmala Sitharaman is doing the university. She's handled it brilliantly. All said and done. Now, some people say, oh, is she actually running the ministry or someone else running the ministry, blah, blah.
She's taken the bullets for everyone.
But let me tell you, she's been an outstanding finance minister. I used to say, and now he's in the PMO, Shaktikant Das went from the bureaucracy as the Reserve Bank governor. And he did a stellar job. I'm not saying this, the Financial Times awarded him year after year. Did Shaktikant Das open his mouth? No. He opened it responsibly when it needed to be opened. He wasn't giving more interviews than functioning traffic lights like Raghuram Rajan did. So sometimes silence is a great virtue. And we need to understand that virtue rather than keep complaining about that virtue. Does Mukesh Ambani give interviews one after the other? No. His work speaks for himself. Does N. Chandrasekaran of Tata Sons give an interview? No. The one interview he gave was after the horrific Air India crash, where he was
Addressing
brilliant.
stakeholders in the nation.
And brilliant.
Yeah.
That is leadership. That is when you actually need to say what you need to say. When a Mukesh Ambani tells you that, look, I believe in every Indian and I believe in every thing that India does, or when Dhirubhai Ambani said, ki, make sure the cost of a phone call in the good old days, CDMA days, is as much of a postcard क्योंकि इंडिया में अगर लोग पढ़ या लिख नहीं सकते पर बात तो कर सकते हैं. So if you remember, they launched Reliance at that time at 50 paisa a call.
Right.
That's an understanding. So my point is, we have all these examples. We don't have to look here or there.
What about Akhilesh Yadav?
I'm personally very fond of him. Very fond of him. I think he's got his heart in the right place. Now people say who he's pro this, pro that. Fair enough. But I will not say that Akhilesh Yadav is stupid or he's irresponsible. He's a responsible politician. See, everyone will say things that they need to say. Because at that point in time, it suits their purpose. You and I do the same. I mean, I do it less. Because I'm branded as eccentric, which is fine. But, that's how it is. And I think most of these politicians, by and large, and I'll tell you, I've always said this about Mamata Banerjee. I have a fondness for her as a human being. And I know how diligently and how ethically she worked when she was Railways Minister. And people say, oh, ye appeasement hai, wo appeasement hai. It'll show up.
Bibaswan is from Kolkata, and you grew up in Kolkata, spent
I
some
was born and raised there.
formative years there, right? It's this old world city for many people. I've heard there's some nice jazz bars. I'm yet to go. I've never gone. But would you not be upset at Mamata for how she's handled the state?
Not at all. I mean, I wouldn't be upset because you're right. I have a parochial Calcutta view, and my Calcutta has not changed. Many years ago, I said, we defy Jane Austen. There is pride without the prejudice. And Calcutta is the only city, Vinamre. We can have 2 hours of podcasting on this. Calcutta is a city of civility. It's a city of grace. It's a city of knowledge. It's a city where you can disagree without being disagreeable.
Would you agree as a resident?
Yeah.
It's not a cesspit of urban nightmares and chaos and poverty.
Not at all. Not at all. It has the finest food in India. The finest. You name the cuisine, it's the best. It has great people. When I grew up, you'll be shocked. I used to do a lot of theatre, as probably you know.
Yeah.
I've worked with Utpal Dutt, I worked with Badal Sarkar, with Ashok Vishwanathan, Biplab Das Gupta, Mr. Ray. Where do you get these people? I would go several evenings to Mrinal Das' house, to Mrinal Sen's house, and we would talk. You would talk about Marx, you would talk about Engels, you would talk about Lenin. Jyoti Basu was a communist. Mrs. Gandhi, Indira Gandhi had banned Bhutto because, there was a reference to her. I was playing the role of Bhutto. I was auditioned by I.S. Johar in 1981. I don't know if you were born then.
16 years later.
When I went back to Calcutta to stage the play, we were told it's banned. That Mrs. Gandhi's banned the play in India. I went to Jyoti Babu. And I said, sir, uni playta ke ban korichin means they banned the play. He says, who is she to ban the play? And we staged the play at the G.D. Birla Sabhagar. After that, it's done almost 400 to 500 shows. In fact, Dr. Karan Singh still calls me Bhutto. He never calls me Suhel because he came to see the play. But those were the days, and those are still the days. Every Christmas time, and therefore New Year's Eve, I used to go to the late Naresh Kumar's house, where you went, and if you saw an empty stool, you knew that person was dead. Otherwise, he'd be there. So there's a certain rigor to Calcutta which can't go away. If I were to ever retire and live in one city, I don't know if my wife and my child will agree, but that would be the city. Because that's got grace, it's got elegance, it's got purpose, it's got history. You have Job Chanak, you have Dakshineshwar, you have Sri Aurobindo, you have Swami Vivekanand, you have Satyajit Ray, you have Mrinal Sen. It is a melting pot of great intellectual churning, which has produced some great minds. Shishi Chandra Bose, he's dead now. But his nephew, Shugoto Bose, was in parliament also at one stage. I used to go and debate there. We had the most fun debating in Calcutta. We created something called the Calcutta Debating Society. We would go to British Council, debate there. It was civil. To this day, you have the Calcutta Club debate, you have the Saturday Club debate, you have the Bengal Club debate. Bengal Club to this day has a smoking jacket. But if you tell someone in Delhi, they'll think the jacket's on fire. But that's how brilliant the city is. And I will never, ever. So someone the other day asked me, how did you become who you are? I said 80% Calcutta and 80% Ram Ray. And they say, who's Ram Ray? So Ram Ray was the chairman and founder of Response Advertising. And when I went for a job to him, he says, how much will you pay me? He was joking. So I said, sir, I want to learn. And ultimately, we had to call him Ram. And I trained under him. And, people are always shy. They think, oh, we are all self-made and all. But if there is anyone who has influenced my thinking, it has been Ram Ray. He's no longer amongst us. But Ram Ray was, to my mind, the most fertile mind I have ever come across in advertising and marketing.
And you've met everyone across the world.
He was a calligraphist. His attention to detail was legendary. He was surrounded by books. And the books range from James Hadley Chase to Dante. These were the people, Vinamre, we grew up with. So, when people tell me, ye dekh lo, wo dekh lo, it's not arrogance, but you've been there, seen that, done it, and worn the t-shirt. Because these people were people of great intellectual depth and not intellectual heft. That's why it mattered.
What's the difference?
So intellectual depth it's like still waters run deep. A puddle or a waterfall will make a lot more noise than an ocean will. Think about it.
Sure.
So these guys have that oceanic level of depth. And it is said out of both experience and expertise. Education is finite. Knowledge is infinite. So I can stop my education the moment I complete my master's or I complete my doctorate. But if I read every day of my life, and I read a multitude of books, and I read a cross-section of books, I listen to a cross-section of podcasts, what am I doing? I'm enriching my mind. And that to me is the most important attribute of human evolution.
Despite all of this amazing set of mentors and books and the cultural milieu that was Calcutta, did you ever feel in your now very long career that you were lost or perhaps depressed or had sort of gone on the wayside in terms of what you wanted to do in life?
No. I've never been depressed. I've never been sad. I was sad when I lost my parents, obviously. But I'm a different kind of person. Have I been, dejected at times? But never depressed. Because depression is a very serious, other than the clinical aspect, it's a very serious self-inflicted blow. So I've always looked at adversities as opportunities to examine, recalibrate, and march on. I've often given the example of the bumblebee in India. So India is like the bumblebee. Aerodynamically, if you look at the bumblebee's size, it's not supposed to fly. But the bumblebee doesn't know that. It flies happily. So if you were to measure and put down on a matrix or on a sheet of paper, oh, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, this is wrong, you'll never improve. And I've had the good fortune of having friends who were much, much older. Like when I was living in Bombay, my daily drinking companion was R.K. Lakshman, the cartoonist.
That's amazing.
So Lakshman and I and his wife Kamaka, we took all our summer holidays for years together. Most of my friends know. Most of my friends know this. Now, when you're with those kind of minds, I would spend evenings, many, many evenings with Kushwant Singh. Now, the ability to therefore, and that is a blessing. That's a privilege. It's a blessing to be able to meet these kind of people, to learn from them, or not even learn, to just listen to them and imbibe.
Do these people still exist? Because we live in a very shortened attention span era now where to be able to even talk about a book, I would have to pull up a quote from the internet and tell my friend as we're driving fast, going somewhere. Are there people like this even now?
100% there are. Millions. Millions. The point is we've stopped searching. We've stopped looking. The tragedy is our quest for knowledge has been replaced by Google Maps.
Yeah.
We're looking at the destination and ignoring the journey. For me, in my life, the journey is the most important. So, I have a philosophy of life called RTDM, ready to die moment. I've been on RTDM since I turned 40, which is 22 years ago, which means if I die, I have no regrets. I've completed 3 100 bucket lists. There's nothing more I need to do except learn French, lose weight, and play the piano.
Wait, hold on. 300 items in a bucket list?
Yeah, 100, 100, 100. And I finished all.
And that's your anchor or orientation in life, is the bucket list? Everything else is extra?
No, I just put down lists. I'm a great lister. So, I made first 100 ka bucket list, finished that, second, third. As I told you, now I have 3 things. One is I have to learn the piano, I have to learn French, I have to lose weight. Now, the lose weight is now on my current bucket list. And as a step towards that, I did it for a year, and I've now started, and it will never come back to me. I will not touch alcohol. Not that I was a great drinker. Out. So that you keep focusing. Because I have a 5.5-year-old child. So there's a certain parental, societal responsibility. And, people ask me, oh, do you feel bad? Yahan reh rahe ho, wo kar rahe ho, India mein reh rahe ho. I'm delighted. I've had no regrets. Yes, there have been many losses. Mr. Tata's loss on October 8 last year was a huge personal loss for me. But, you move on. And you know that rather than mourn his demise, which we all do, and which we do to this day, I take succor from the fact that one had the opportunity to spend so much of one-on-one time with him.
So that you can say to the world that I was alive in the time of Ratan Tata.
No, that I was blessed to be alive in the time of Ratan Tata. So, in July last year, and after that he stopped meeting people, and, in any case he was meeting very, very, very few people. He one day tells me, he says, bring Lakshmi and Gayatri over to Bombay. And I took Lakshmi and Gayatri. And we have another friend, Mr. Tata's very close friend as well, Melli Mistry. And before that, we went to Melli's office for lunch. And Melli is a great friend of my child's, and he gave her Kit Kats. And Gayatri, being smart enough, took those Kit Kats to Mr. Tata's house. We were going there to spend the afternoon and tea and all that with him. And there's a video which I shot of Mr. Tata and Gayatri. Like Mr. Tata being offered the Kit Kat, he keeping it, then saying, no, you take it. And when he passed away, and I was obviously in tears and whatever, and my wife Lakshmi told Gayatri, she says, Papa's very upset. Mr. Tata's no longer with us. She says, so, who will I give the Kit Kat to? And I'm sorry that I sound emotional.
It's okay.
That tells you about human frailty and human relationships. Who will I give that Kit Kat to? And I'm blessed that I've had opportunities of sharing remarkable moments with my ex-teachers, with senior people, with, and I have a rule, like, whenever I'm in England, whenever I'm in London, I will meet the same people religiously. Whether they are in power, what I mean, not political power, but let's say a person like Lionel Barber, who was the longest serving editor of the FT. Because you learn. And they also appreciate, because they know you have no agenda. You're not asking for something ki bhai ye kar do ya wo kar do. And I'm saying if humanity and if human beings can drive an agenda-less purpose for themselves, they will be the biggest beneficiaries.
I saw you singing My Way at Smita's Diwali party a few months ago. And I just learned about the song as well. When my channel hit, I think, 1 million subscribers, I'd heard about the other song, That's Life, a lot. But I hadn't heard that song. And I saw you singing with a lot of passion. And it seems to me that you live and will continue to live in a way that is entirely yours.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Without any regret, without any, affliction, without any affectation. See, आप अगर अपना जीवन अपने हिसाब से नहीं जियोगे ना, then you will not live. Because you cannot have multiple sides to yourself. There was only a Jekyll and a Hyde. You can't have a Jekyll 1, Jekyll 2, Hyde number 1, 2, 3, 7, 8, 10.
But what about obligations, duties, responsibilities, morality, all of those things that often bind people down, and then they look at the other person having fun and they wish, God, I wish I could do that.
That's their problem, frankly. Many years ago, and for whatever reason, on a television program, there was Pranab Mukherjee had declared austerity measures as finance minister. And a particular anchor on television asked me, don't you feel odd driving a Ferrari in a country that's poor? I said, not at all, because I pay my taxes. Now, rather than raise the average standard, it doesn't mean that we have to sink, because that was socialism thinking. I have no regrets. I have always paid my taxes on time. In fact, the late Arun Jaitley would always say, do you think you're the only person who pays taxes? I said, that I don't know. But I do. And I'm proud of the fact because we have to contribute. I know that I'm a responsible citizen. I will not break the law. No matter what. Now, if I have to live, my responsibility is to 3 stakeholders. Number 1, to my family. Because I'm responsible for them, they are responsible to me and for me. Number 2 is to my community. And number 3 is to my country. The rest I don't care about. I don't give a shit. And why should I? Otherwise, I'll be worrying from morning to evening, भाई वो क्या कह रहा है, विनम्र क्या कह रहा है, ये क्या कह रहा है. और मैं आपको एक बात बोलूं, वो पुराना गाना था ना, लोगों का क्या कहना. They will always say things. There are people in Delhi who will invite you for lunch. And then if you are the first to get up, they'll say, don't go. Because the first person who leaves, they bitch him out. I say, you do the same thing about the last person who leaves. So it really doesn't matter.
Suhel, I looked you up when I first was doing our interview together. And there's a Zoom TV clip of your 40th birthday party. You've all black hair. I think I see a few people there. And there's an actor called Ratan Seth as well.
One of my dearest friends.
So he says something about Delhi's nightlife, which I thought was so funny. I tell it to my friends when it's 1 a.m. and we're looking for the next place to go to. I say that I heard that man say, Delhi's nightlife is a last bit desperate attempt for something to happen. But that was your 40th birthday, and you said that you began to develop a bucket list at that point. What changed?
I've done it. Been there. And, also, not with age, and I've seen this personally, as you grow older, you also become more reflective. So, it's not that you were earlier irresponsible qua your actions, but you become more reflective. And the point that you were making is very relevant. What do I like the most? And there are many beautiful homes with beautiful, nice people. Sorry to be Trumpian in my language. In Delhi or Calcutta or London or wherever. You go to their homes, they're like salons where you have great conversation, acha ghar ka khana.
Nice paintings, antique furniture, it's well
or
decorated.
Whatever furniture. Minimalistic could be. Herman Miller, you could have Eames chairs, whatever. But it's a nice, relaxed, non-threatening environment. And that's what people, and you will face that as well. You will come to terms with that as you grow older. It's about, ki yaar, theek hai. सब कर लिया. Someone the other day asked me, are you sure you'll be able to stay without alcohol? And then that person thankfully said, well, but you don't drink that much. I said, it's not about that. It's about moving on. You've been there, done that. We've done the parties. We've done all-night concerts. We've, done theatre. I've done 167 plays here. I've done 8 films, 5 books. अब जो करना था कर लिए. अब आराम से जियो. औरों से, keep learning. The flame from the torch of learning must never be extinguished until you are dead. And the biggest problem with most Indians certainly is we are legacy worried. And I have this famous line which I always use, that if you're a Hindu, as I am, people will remember you for 13 days after you're dead. Because they have to be vegetarian.
And 4 if you're a Punjabi.
And 4 if you're a Punjabi, because there's no booze. After that, no one gives a damn. So ये सब जो लोग बोलते हैं ना, मेरी लेगेसी क्या होगी, मेरे को लोग कैसे याद करेंगे, कौन याद करता है? आजकल आप जवाहरलाल नेहरू को भी याद करते हो इन नेगेटिव प्रोपोर्शन, गांधी को भी याद करते हो इन द कॉन्टेक्स्ट ऑफ गोडसे. आप किसको प्यार से याद करते हो? यू टेल मी.
Nope. Public imagination is not nice to historical figures at all.
Never has been. Never has been. So point is, why should I look for legacy? Someone asked me, will you ever write a biography? But that person's question, will you ever write an autobiography? I said, it's like asking someone, will you revert back? So obviously grammatically screwed up. So I said, no. I thought about it. Oh, you've done so many things, you'll be a great example. I said, no one cares here. ये हम लोग अपने आप को फूंक देते हैं, सेल्फ इम्पोर्टेंट, यार आई हैव डन सो मेनी थिंग्स. डन ठीक है. एज माई लेट ग्रैंड मदर वुड से, फेर की लाटू लगावा. So all this thing about, self-importance and all are ridiculous things.
Suhel, I will say, last time मुझे बहुत मजा आया था. इस बार तो you've sort of knocked it out of the park in terms of what I will take back from this conversation. Once again, thank you for your time and thank you for your friendship and thank you for showing me again and again that you can live the way you want, you can be very wise, very funny, and have friends all over. Thank you.
And I must say this, not a mutual backpatting society. I enjoy these podcasts with you because, as I said, the art of conversation is missing. We have become interrupters rather than explorers. We have stopped the exploration of human quest, of human uncertainty. And when you talked about the bucket list, there were 2 things, the Arctic and the Antarctic, and I've been to both.
That's crazy.
And people would say, have you gone mad? But remember, the world was always made exciting by insane people, never by sane. So, I think it was Andy Grove who wrote Insanely Beautiful or something. And I remember David Ogilvy used to say, in advertising terms, that advertising should be insanely delightful. So you need a bit of insanity. And I'm glad you still have very little of that and may it grow.
Hell yeah. Amen. Thank you so much.
Thank you.